Question 1. Governance review demonstrates that the admissions committee for Esraa University College is under pressure to meet enrollment targets for the upcoming academic year. A committee member suggests prioritizing applicants who demonstrate strong leadership potential in extracurricular activities, even if their academic scores are slightly below the stated minimum for certain programs, arguing this will bring a more well-rounded cohort. Which of the following represents the most appropriate approach for the admissions committee to consider? Strictly adhering to the Esraa University College entrance exams regulatory framework. Option A. Strictly adhere to the Esraa University College entrance exams established academic and aptitude criteria for each program, ensuring all applicants are evaluated against these objective benchmarks. Option B. Prioritize applicants with strong extracurricular leadership, allowing for a slight deviation from academic score requirements to achieve a more well-rounded student body as perceived by the committee. Option C. Consider recommendations and informal assurances from influential individuals outside the admissions committee to supplement applicant profiles that may not fully meet the stated criteria. Option D. Focus on meeting the enrollment quota by admitting a predetermined number of students, even if it means relaxing the minimum academic score requirements for some applicants. The correct answer is A. Strictly adhere to the Esraa University College entrance exams established academic and aptitude criteria for each program, ensuring all applicants are evaluated against these objective benchmarks. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's commitment to academic integrity with the need to fairly assess applicants. The pressure to admit a certain number of students, coupled with the potential for subjective interpretation of application materials, creates a complex decision-making environment. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the admission process is both effective and ethical, adhering strictly to the Esraa University College entrance exam regulations. The correct approach involves a systematic review of all application components against established, objective criteria outlined in the Esraa University College entrance exam guidelines. This ensures fairness and consistency, minimizing the risk of bias. Specifically, the Esraa University College entrance exam regulations mandate that all admissions decisions must be based on a predefined set of academic and aptitude indicators, with clear weighting for each. This approach upholds the principle of equal opportunity for all applicants and maintains the integrity of the college's academic standards. An incorrect approach that relies solely on the perceived potential of an applicant without concrete evidence or adherence to established metrics violates the Esraa University College entrance exams requirement for objective assessment. This can lead to arbitrary decisions and may disadvantage more qualified candidates who meet the defined criteria. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes meeting a quota over the established admission standards directly contravenes the Esraa University College entrance exam's emphasis on merit-based selection. This can compromise the academic quality of the incoming cohort and undermine the college's reputation. A further incorrect approach that involves seeking external influence or favors to bypass the standard admission process is unethical and a clear violation of the Esraa University College entrance exam's principles of transparency and fairness. Such actions introduce bias and can lead to the admission of unqualified individuals. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the Esraa University College entrance exam specific regulations and admission criteria. This framework should then involve a systematic evaluation of each applicant's submission against these objective standards. Any deviations or special considerations must be clearly documented and justified within the bounds of the established guidelines. Regular training on ethical conduct and adherence to the Esraa University College entrance exams regulatory framework is crucial for all admissions personnel. Question 2. The risk matrix shows a moderate likelihood of prospective students being misled by outdated program descriptions in marketing materials. An admissions counselor, eager to meet enrollment targets for the upcoming Esraa University College entrance exam cycle, is aware that some details about a popular program's curriculum have recently changed, but the updated information is not yet widely disseminated. The counselor is considering using the older, familiar descriptions to avoid confusion and streamline the enrollment conversation. What is the most ethically and regulatorily sound approach for the admissions counselor? Option A. Use the outdated program descriptions to maintain consistency and avoid potential confusion during initial conversations, with a plan to provide updated details later if specifically requested. Option B. Immediately verify the most current program details and use only accurate, up-to-date information in all communications with prospective students, even if it requires more time and explanation. Option C. Proceed with the outdated descriptions, assuming that minor curriculum changes are unlikely to significantly impact a student's decision to apply for the Esraa University College entrance exam. Option D. Focus solely on the benefits and prestige of the program, downplaying specific curriculum details to avoid dwelling on potentially complex or less appealing updated information. The correct answer is A. Use the outdated program descriptions to maintain consistency and avoid potential confusion during initial conversations, with a plan to provide updated details later if specifically requested. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate need for student enrollment with the ethical and regulatory obligations to ensure accurate representation of the college's offerings. Misrepresenting program details, even with the intention of attracting students, can lead to significant reputational damage, regulatory sanctions, and ultimately, harm to students who enroll based on false pretenses. Careful judgment is required to uphold the integrity of the admissions process and the college's standing. The correct approach involves a commitment to transparency and accuracy in all communication. This means ensuring that all marketing materials, including those used by admissions counselors, precisely reflect the current curriculum, faculty qualifications, and accreditation status of programs. When faced with a situation where information might be outdated or incomplete, the ethical and regulatory imperative is to verify the information and communicate only what is confirmed and accurate. This aligns with the principles of honest representation and consumer protection, which are fundamental in educational institutions. Specifically, adhering to the guidelines set forth by Esraa University College for its entrance exam and admissions process would mandate truthful and verifiable information. An incorrect approach would be to proceed with the assumption that the outdated information is acceptable for the purpose of securing enrollment. This fails to acknowledge the potential for misleading prospective students and violates the trust placed in the college to provide accurate information. Such an action could be construed as a breach of ethical conduct and potentially contravene any internal policies or external regulations governing educational marketing and admissions. Another incorrect approach is to prioritize enrollment numbers over the accuracy of information. This demonstrates a disregard for the long-term consequences of misleading students and can lead to a decline in the college's reputation and potential legal ramifications. It prioritizes short-term gains over ethical responsibilities and student welfare. A professional decision-making framework in such situations should involve a multi-step process. First, identify the discrepancy or potential for misrepresentation. Second, consult relevant internal policies and any applicable regulatory guidelines specific to Esraa University College's entrance exam and admissions. Third, verify the accuracy of the information with the appropriate departments or individuals. Fourth, communicate only verified and accurate information to prospective students. If there is doubt, it is always better to err on the side of caution and provide a more conservative, accurate statement rather than risk misrepresentation. Question 3. Investigation of a student's application to Esraa University College reveals a potential minor oversight in the declaration of previously submitted academic work. The applicant, upon reviewing their submission, realizes they may have inadvertently failed to explicitly mention a short, non-graded project completed for a different course that involved similar research methodologies. What is the most appropriate course of action for the applicant to take? Option A. Wait for the admissions office to contact them about the discrepancy before responding. Option B. Contact the admissions office and attempt to justify why the project was not mentioned, framing it as irrelevant to the current application. Option C. Immediately contact the admissions office to explain the oversight, express regret, and inquire about the correct procedure for amending their application. Option D. Assume the oversight is minor and unlikely to be noticed, and therefore take no further action. The correct answer is C. Immediately contact the admissions office to explain the oversight, express regret, and inquire about the correct procedure for amending their application. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the foundational principles of academic integrity and ethical conduct expected of students at Esraa University College. The challenge lies in identifying the most appropriate response when faced with a situation that could be perceived as a minor infraction, but has significant implications for academic honesty. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between genuine misunderstanding and deliberate academic misconduct. The correct approach involves proactively seeking clarification and admitting to the potential oversight. This demonstrates honesty, a commitment to academic integrity, and a willingness to adhere to the college's regulations. Specifically, it aligns with the spirit of the Esraa University College's academic integrity policy, which emphasizes transparency and accountability. By admitting the mistake and asking for guidance, the applicant shows respect for the institution's rules and a desire to rectify the situation before it escalates. This proactive stance is crucial for building trust and establishing a foundation of ethical behavior. An incorrect approach would be to ignore the potential issue and hope it goes unnoticed. This demonstrates a lack of integrity and a disregard for the college's academic policies. It suggests an intent to deceive or a failure to take responsibility for one's actions, which are serious ethical breaches in an academic setting. Another incorrect approach would be to attempt to justify the action without seeking clarification or admitting the oversight. This can be perceived as an attempt to evade responsibility or to minimize the seriousness of the situation, which is contrary to the principles of academic honesty. It fails to acknowledge the potential for error and the importance of adhering to established guidelines. A further incorrect approach would be to blame external factors or other individuals without taking personal accountability. This deflects responsibility and indicates a lack of maturity and ethical awareness, which are essential qualities for university students. The professional reasoning framework that an applicant should employ in such situations involves a four-step process. 1. Recognize the potential issue and its implications for academic integrity. 2. Consult the relevant university policies and guidelines, in this case, Esraa University College's academic regulations. 3. Honestly assess one's own actions and their compliance with these policies. 4. Take proactive and responsible steps to address any identified discrepancies, which may involve seeking clarification, admitting to errors, and demonstrating a commitment to rectifying the situation. Question 4. Governance review demonstrates that Esraa University College is seeking to enhance its understanding of the upcoming entrance examination scope and potential focus areas to better prepare its academic support resources. Which of the following actions best aligns with the regulatory framework and ethical guidelines for Esraa University College entrance exam? Option A. Discreetly inquire with faculty members involved in setting the examination about potential topics or question formats. Option B. Focus exclusively on analyzing past examination papers from previous years without seeking any new or updated information. Option C. Ask current students who have recently taken similar examinations for their anecdotal insights into the exam's difficulty and common themes. Option D. Pursue official channels to obtain any publicly released syllabi or guidelines related to the entrance examination, and engage in authorized discussions with the examination board if permitted. The correct answer is D. Pursue official channels to obtain any publicly released syllabi or guidelines related to the entrance examination, and engage in authorized discussions with the examination board if permitted. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need for information with the ethical and regulatory obligations to protect sensitive data and ensure fair competition. The pressure to gain an advantage for Esraa University College can lead to impulsive decisions that violate established guidelines. Careful judgment is required to navigate these competing interests. The correct approach involves seeking information through officially sanctioned and transparent channels, such as publicly available reports or direct, authorized communication with the relevant authorities. This upholds the principles of integrity and fairness, ensuring that Esraa University College does not benefit from any form of unfair advantage or breach of confidentiality. Adhering to the Esraa University College entrance exams regulatory framework, which implicitly governs fair admission processes, means avoiding any action that could be construed as seeking privileged or non-public information that could influence the exam's outcome or preparation materials. This aligns with the ethical duty to maintain a level playing field for all prospective students. An incorrect approach that involves attempting to access draft exam questions directly from faculty members who are involved in their creation is ethically and regulatorily unsound. This constitutes a breach of confidentiality and an attempt to gain an unfair advantage, undermining the integrity of the entrance examination process. Such an action would violate the trust placed in faculty members and the principles of academic honesty. Another incorrect approach, which is to solicit information from current students who might have insights into the exam's difficulty or format, also presents ethical concerns. Not as severe as direct access to draft questions, it still risks the dissemination of unofficial or speculative information that could mislead other applicants and create an uneven playing field. It also places current students in an awkward position and could be seen as exploiting their position. A third incorrect approach, which is to rely solely on past exam papers without seeking any new information, might be a safe strategy, but fails to address the potential for changes in the exam's focus or content. While past papers are a legitimate study tool, the challenge here is about proactively seeking information to improve the college's understanding of the exam's current requirements, not just general preparation. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the governing regulations and ethical codes. Professionals should first identify the objective and the potential methods to achieve it. Then they must evaluate each potential method against the established rules and ethical principles, considering the potential consequences of each action. If a method appears to violate any rule or ethical standard, it should be discarded. The focus should always be on achieving objectives through legitimate, transparent, and fair means, even if it requires more effort or time. Question 5. The evaluation methodology shows that the Esraa University College entrance exam is designed to assess a candidate's readiness for higher education through a combination of aptitude tests, subject-specific knowledge, and critical reasoning exercises. When reviewing an applicant's performance, which of the following represents the most appropriate decision-making approach to ensure adherence to the college's admission standards? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive review of the applicant's performance across all sections of the entrance examination, weighing each component according to the college's published assessment criteria. Option B. Consider informal feedback from proctors regarding the applicant's demeanor and perceived confidence during the examination. Option C. Prioritize the applicant's score on the aptitude test section, as this is considered the primary indicator of future academic success. Option D. Base the admission decision primarily on the applicant's performance in the subject-specific knowledge section, assuming this directly reflects their preparedness for the chosen field of study. The correct answer is C. Prioritize the applicant's score on the aptitude test section, as this is considered the primary indicator of future academic success. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the foundational principles of university admissions within the specific regulatory context of Esraa University College. The challenge lies in discerning the most appropriate method for evaluating an applicant's potential, balancing academic merit with broader suitability, while adhering strictly to the established entrance examination guidelines. Careful judgment is required to ensure fairness, transparency, and compliance with the college's admission policies. The correct approach involves a holistic assessment that considers the applicant's performance across all components of the entrance examination, as stipulated by Esraa University College's regulatory framework. This approach is right because it aligns with the stated objective of the entrance exam, which is to evaluate a comprehensive range of skills and knowledge relevant to university-level study. The college's guidelines likely emphasize a multifaceted evaluation to identify candidates who not only possess academic aptitude, but also demonstrate critical thinking and problem-solving abilities, as tested by the various sections of the exam. This comprehensive review ensures that the selection process is robust and identifies individuals best suited for the academic rigor of the college. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on a single component of the examination, such as only the multiple-choice questions, fails to adhere to the comprehensive evaluation methodology outlined by the college. This selective focus would ignore other crucial aspects of the assessment designed to gauge different competencies, potentially leading to the exclusion of otherwise qualified candidates. This represents a failure to follow the established regulatory framework for the entrance exam. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes subjective impressions or anecdotal evidence over the standardized examination results would be a significant ethical and regulatory failure. The entrance examination is designed to provide an objective and standardized measure of an applicant's readiness. Relying on subjective factors undermines the integrity of the admission process, introduces bias, and deviates from the college's commitment to merit-based selection as defined by its examination protocols. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the specific regulatory guidelines and objectives of the Esraa University College entrance examination. This involves identifying all assessment criteria and their relative importance as defined by the college. The next step is to systematically evaluate each applicant against these criteria, ensuring consistency and fairness. Finally, decisions should be documented, clearly demonstrating how the applicant's performance aligns with the established admission standards, thereby ensuring accountability and transparency. Question 6. When evaluating a prospective student's application for Esraa University College, who presents compelling evidence of significant personal hardship during their final year of secondary education that impacted their academic performance, what is the most appropriate course of action according to the university's entrance exam guidelines? Option A. Request additional academic transcripts from a wider range of previous educational institutions to verify the student's overall academic capability, irrespective of the stated hardship. Option B. Reject the application outright due to the student not meeting the minimum academic thresholds, without further consideration of the provided documentation of personal challenges. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive review of the student's academic record against the standard admission criteria, while also thoroughly assessing the documented evidence of extenuating circumstances to determine eligibility for a potential exception or alternative admission pathway as outlined in the college's policy. Option D. Immediately grant the student admission based on their stated hardship, prioritizing compassion over strict adherence to the established academic entry requirements. The correct answer is C. Conduct a comprehensive review of the student's academic record against the standard admission criteria, while also thoroughly assessing the documented evidence of extenuating circumstances to determine eligibility for a potential exception or alternative admission pathway as outlined in the college's policy. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's commitment to academic integrity with the need to support a student facing personal difficulties. The pressure to make an exception can be significant, but adherence to established university policies and fair treatment of all students is paramount. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any decision made is both compassionate and consistent with the regulatory framework governing university admissions and academic standards at Esraa University College. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the student's application against the established admission criteria and a careful consideration of any extenuating circumstances presented, documented appropriately. This aligns with the principles of fairness and due process inherent in the Esraa University College's regulatory framework for admissions. It ensures that decisions are based on objective criteria and evidence, while also allowing for a structured and transparent process to consider exceptional situations. This approach upholds the integrity of the admissions process and ensures that all applicants are evaluated under the same set of rules, with any deviations being justifiable and documented. An incorrect approach that involves immediately granting admission based solely on the student's emotional appeal, without verifying the submitted academic credentials or adhering to the standard application review process, fails to uphold the regulatory framework of Esraa University College. This bypasses the established procedures designed to ensure that all admitted students meet the minimum academic requirements and that the admissions process is equitable. It also sets a dangerous precedent, potentially undermining the credibility of the admissions process and creating grounds for future challenges from other applicants. Another incorrect approach, which is to reject the application outright without any consideration for the documented extenuating circumstances, demonstrates a lack of empathy and fails to engage with the university's potential to offer support or consider alternative pathways. While adherence to policy is crucial, The regulatory framework often allows for discretion in exceptional cases, provided there is a clear and documented rationale. Ignoring such circumstances, even if the student does not strictly meet all criteria, can be seen as a failure to act in a manner that is both fair and supportive, within the bounds of the established regulations. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to the Esraa University College's regulatory framework for admissions. This involves 1. Understanding and applying the stated admission criteria consistently. 2. Establishing a clear process for evaluating documented extenuating circumstances, ensuring fairness and transparency. 3. Seeking guidance from relevant university committees or senior administration when complex or precedent-setting decisions are required. 4. Maintaining thorough documentation of all decisions and the rationale behind them. This structured approach ensures that decisions are defensible, ethical, and in compliance with the university's governing regulations. Question 7. Governance review demonstrates that a prospective student, whose application is currently under review for Esraa University College, has contacted a faculty member directly requesting specific details about the admission statistics of candidates from their high school in the previous admission cycle. The faculty member is aware that this information is not publicly disseminated and is considered sensitive applicant data. Faculty member is under pressure to respond quickly to the student's inquiry. What is the most appropriate course of action for the faculty member? Option A. Politely inform the student that the requested information is confidential and cannot be shared directly, and advise them to contact the university's admissions office for any general information they may provide. Option B. Directly share the aggregated admission statistics from the previous cycle, as this is general data and not specific to the current applicant. Option C. Provide the student with the requested admission statistics, as the student is a prospective applicant and the information is related to their application process. Option D. Advise the student to speak with other applicants from their high school to gather the information they are seeking. The correct answer is A. Politely inform the student that the requested information is confidential and cannot be shared directly, and advise them to contact the university's admissions office for any general information they may provide. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need for information with the ethical and regulatory obligations to protect sensitive data and maintain confidentiality. The pressure to provide a quick answer, especially in an academic context like an entrance exam, can lead to shortcuts that violate established principles. Careful judgment is required to navigate the competing demands of transparency and data privacy. The correct approach involves a structured process of identifying the nature of the information requested, assessing its sensitivity, and determining the appropriate channels for disclosure. This aligns with the principles of data protection and academic integrity. Specifically, it requires understanding the university's policies on information access and the legal framework governing student data, which in this context would be the regulations applicable to Esraa University College. The ethical obligation is to uphold confidentiality and prevent unauthorized disclosure, ensuring that any information shared is done so through approved and secure methods, respecting the privacy of all individuals involved. An incorrect approach that involves directly sharing the requested information without verification or authorization fails to uphold the principle of confidentiality. This could lead to a breach of privacy regulations and university policy, potentially exposing sensitive personal data of applicants. Another incorrect approach, which is to ignore the request entirely, demonstrates a lack of responsiveness and professional courtesy, and may also contravene university guidelines on information dissemination. Finally, an approach that involves speculating or providing incomplete information is unprofessional and can lead to misinformation, undermining the credibility of the institution and potentially causing harm to applicants. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to regulations and ethical standards. This involves 1. Understanding the request and its context. 2. Identifying the nature and sensitivity of the information. 3. Consulting relevant policies and regulations. In this case, Esraa University College's specific guidelines and any overarching national educational or data protection laws. 4. Determining the authorized channels for information release. 5. Communicating clearly and professionally, even if the information cannot be provided directly. Question 8. Analysis of a situation where an admissions officer at Esraa University College is reviewing applications for a highly competitive program. One applicant, whose file is still incomplete, is known to a faculty member who believes they would be an excellent fit. The admissions officer is under pressure to fill the remaining spots quickly. Which of the following represents the most appropriate course of action for the admissions officer? Option A. Formally request the missing documentation from the applicant and await its submission before proceeding with a full review, while politely informing the faculty member that all decisions are based on complete official records. Option B. Reach out to a current student in the program who knows the applicant socially to gauge their personality and suitability for the college environment. Option C. Make a provisional offer to the applicant based on the faculty member's strong recommendation and the perceived potential, with the understanding that official documents will be finalized later. Option D. Contact the faculty member directly to obtain informal feedback on the applicant's potential and consider this information in the preliminary assessment. Correct answer is A. Formally request the missing documentation from the applicant and await its submission before proceeding with a full review, while politely informing the faculty member that all decisions are based on complete official records. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need for information with the ethical and regulatory obligations to protect applicant privacy and ensure a fair admissions process. The pressure to fill limited spots can lead to shortcuts that compromise integrity. Careful judgment is required to uphold the college's reputation and adhere to established guidelines. The correct approach involves a structured, information-gathering process that respects the established admission criteria and timelines. This approach prioritizes fairness and compliance by seeking information through official channels and within the defined admission framework. It ensures that all decisions are based on documented evidence and adhere to the Esraa University College's admission regulations, preventing any perception of bias or preferential treatment. An incorrect approach that involves directly contacting a faculty member for informal information about an applicant's academic standing before official verification fails to respect the established admission procedures. This bypasses the formal review process and could lead to decisions based on incomplete or potentially biased information, violating principles of fairness and potentially the college's internal policies on data handling and admissions. Another incorrect approach, which is to use anecdotal information from a current student about an applicant's suitability, is ethically unsound and professionally irresponsible. This relies on hearsay, which is unreliable and unprofessional. It introduces subjective bias into the admissions process and disregards the objective criteria set forth by the university, undermining the integrity of the selection process and potentially violating privacy regulations if personal details are shared without consent. A third incorrect approach, which is to make a preliminary decision based on the applicant's perceived potential without waiting for all official documentation, is premature and risky. While intuition can play a role, admissions decisions must be grounded in verifiable facts and adherence to established criteria. This approach risks overlooking critical information or making a decision that cannot be substantiated by the applicant's official record, leading to potential challenges and reputational damage for the college. Professionals in university admissions should employ a decision-making framework that emphasizes 1. Understanding and strictly adhering to all relevant college admission policies and regulatory guidelines. 2. Prioritizing objective evidence and official documentation for all assessments. 3. Maintaining confidentiality and respecting applicant privacy at all stages. 4. Utilizing established communication channels for information gathering and verification. 5. Documenting all decisions and the rationale behind them. 6. Seeking clarification from superiors or relevant departments when faced with ambiguity. Question 9. Process analysis reveals that an applicant has achieved a score on the Esraa University College entrance exam that is below the typical threshold for admission, but they have provided a compelling personal statement detailing significant extracurricular achievements and a strong desire to study at the college. Considering the established framework for the Esraa University College entrance exam, which approach best aligns with the regulatory requirements for admission? Option A. Grant admission based primarily on the applicant's performance on the Esraa University College entrance exam, as this is the designated primary assessment tool. Option B. Consider the applicant's family connections and social influence as a significant factor in the admission decision, given their strong desire to attend. Option C. Offer conditional admission contingent on the applicant demonstrating significant improvement in a subsequent, informal assessment conducted by the college. Option D. Prioritize the applicant's personal statement and extracurricular achievements, as these demonstrate a broader range of skills and potential beyond the exam. The correct answer is A. Grant admission based primarily on the applicant's performance on the Esraa University College entrance exam, as this is the designated primary assessment tool. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the foundational principles of university admissions within the specific regulatory context of Esraa University College. The core difficulty lies in discerning the most appropriate method for evaluating an applicant's potential, balancing academic merit with broader suitability, while strictly adhering to the college's established entrance examination framework. Careful judgment is required to avoid biases and ensure fairness, aligning with the principles of equitable access to education. The correct approach involves a holistic review that prioritizes the applicant's performance on the Esraa University College entrance exam as the primary determinant of admission. This aligns with the stated purpose of the entrance exam, which is to serve as the definitive measure of an applicant's readiness and suitability for the college's programs. The regulatory framework for university entrance exams, as implied by the context of an entrance exam, typically emphasizes standardized assessment to ensure objective and comparable evaluation of all candidates. Therefore, relying on the exam results directly, without undue influence from external factors not explicitly part of the exam's design, is the most ethically sound and procedurally correct method. An incorrect approach would be to heavily weigh factors not directly assessed by the entrance exam, such as the applicant's family background or perceived social standing. This fails to adhere to the principle of meritocracy that underpins standardized entrance examinations. Such an approach introduces subjective biases and deviates from the established regulatory framework, potentially leading to unfair admissions and undermining the credibility of the entrance exam process. Another incorrect approach would be to prioritize anecdotal evidence or informal recommendations over the structured assessment provided by the entrance exam. While supplementary information might be considered in some contexts, the entrance exam is designated as the primary evaluation tool. Over-reliance on informal feedback risks overlooking academically qualified candidates and admitting those who may not meet the required academic standards, thus violating the spirit and letter of the entrance exam regulations. A further incorrect approach would be to grant admission based on the applicant's expressed enthusiasm or perceived potential for future success, without concrete evidence from the entrance exam. While enthusiasm is valuable, the entrance exam is designed to provide that concrete evidence of preparedness. Deviating from this established metric means the college is not fulfilling its mandate to admit students based on demonstrated academic capability as measured by its own assessment. The professional reasoning process for such situations should involve a clear understanding of the governing regulations and guidelines for the Esraa University College entrance exam. Professionals must first identify the primary admission criteria as defined by the college. They should then evaluate each applicant against these criteria objectively. If supplementary information is to be considered, its relevance and impact on the primary criteria must be carefully assessed to ensure it does not override or dilute the importance of the standardized examination results. The decision-making framework should always prioritize fairness, transparency, and adherence to the established admission policies. Question 10. Benchmark analysis indicates that applicants to Esraa University College entrance exam are expected to demonstrate a comprehensive understanding of the examination's specific regulatory framework. Considering this, which of the following best reflects the appropriate approach for an applicant when formulating their response to a question that requires adherence to these specific regulations? Option A. Incorporate examples from international best practices in university admissions to showcase a broader understanding of the field. Option B. Interpret the Esraa University College entrance exam's regulations based on common practices observed in similar academic institutions. Option C. Focus exclusively on the Esraa University College entrance exam's stated regulatory framework, laws, and guidelines, ensuring no external or generic regulations are introduced. Option D. Prioritize referencing the most recent general guidelines for university entrance exams in the region, assuming they align with Esraa's requirements. The correct answer is D. Prioritize referencing the most recent general guidelines for university entrance exams in the region, assuming they align with Esraa's requirements. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to navigate the ethical and regulatory landscape of university admissions, specifically within the context of Esraa University College's entrance examination framework. Challenge lies in balancing the desire to present oneself favorably with the imperative to adhere strictly to the established rules and guidelines, ensuring fairness and integrity in the selection process. Misinterpreting or disregarding these guidelines can lead to disqualification and undermine the credibility of the examination. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding and strict adherence to the Esraa University College entrance exams regulatory framework, laws, and guidelines. This means focusing solely on the information and requirements stipulated for this specific examination, without introducing external or irrelevant information. This approach is ethically sound and professionally responsible because it upholds the principles of fairness, transparency, and equal opportunity for all applicants. It demonstrates respect for the established examination process and its governing rules, which are designed to ensure a merit-based selection. An incorrect approach would be to introduce information or considerations outside the defined scope of the Esraa University College entrance exam. For instance, referencing regulations from other universities or countries, or using generic regulatory terms when specific ones are mandated, demonstrates a failure to comply with the core jurisdictional requirement. This indicates a lack of attention to detail and an inability to follow instructions precisely, which are critical attributes for academic success and professional conduct. Such an approach risks disqualification and suggests a disregard for the established rules, potentially leading to an unfair advantage or disadvantage for other candidates. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes understanding and strictly adhering to the specific rules and guidelines of the context they are operating within. This involves a careful reading and comprehension of all instructions, identifying any jurisdictional limitation, and ensuring that all responses or actions are confined to the specified framework. When faced with ambiguity, seeking clarification from the relevant authorities rather than making assumptions or extrapolating from other contexts is a crucial step in maintaining professional integrity. Question 11. Research into the Esraa University College entrance examination process has revealed a scenario where an applicant submits their application with a section on extracurricular achievements appearing incomplete. The applicant, in a personal statement, expresses significant personal challenges that have limited their participation in such activities, but emphasizes their strong academic record and passion for their chosen field of study. The admissions committee is tasked with deciding how to proceed. Option A. Reject the application immediately due to the incomplete section on extracurricular achievements, as per the standard application checklist. Option B. Grant the applicant admission based on their strong academic record and personal statement, assuming their circumstances warrant an exception to the standard requirements for extracurricular achievements. Option C. Consult with other admissions committee members informally to gauge their opinion on how to handle such cases before making any formal decision. Option D. Review the applicant's academic transcripts and the personal statement thoroughly, and if the academic record is strong and the personal statement provides a credible explanation for the limited extracurriculars, proceed with the application by seeking clarification from the relevant academic department regarding any specific requirements for that section. The correct answer is D. Review the applicant's academic transcripts and the personal statement thoroughly, and if the academic record is strong and the personal statement provides a credible explanation for the limited extracurriculars, proceed with the application by seeking clarification from the relevant academic department regarding any specific requirements for that section. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's perceived academic need and the university's established admission policies. The admissions committee must exercise careful judgment to uphold the integrity of the entrance examination process, while also considering individual circumstances. The core of the challenge lies in balancing fairness to all applicants with the need to adhere to regulatory frameworks governing university admissions. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the applicant's documentation against the Esraa University College's stated admission criteria and any relevant Ministry of Higher Education guidelines. This approach is right because it prioritizes adherence to established regulations and policies, ensuring a fair and consistent evaluation process for all prospective students. By seeking clarification from the relevant academic department and adhering strictly to the documented admission requirements, the committee upholds the integrity of the Esraa University College entrance exam and its regulatory framework. This demonstrates a commitment to transparency and equitable treatment, which are fundamental ethical principles in academic admissions. An incorrect approach would be to grant an exception based solely on the applicant's personal statement of need, without verifying the validity of their claims or ensuring it aligns with established policy. This fails to uphold the regulatory framework by bypassing established procedures and potentially creating a precedent for arbitrary decision-making. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the application outright without a comprehensive review of the provided documentation, even if it appears incomplete. This could be a failure to apply due process and could violate ethical considerations of fairness if there are legitimate reasons for the perceived incompleteness that could be addressed. A third incorrect approach would be to consult with colleagues informally for an opinion without following the formal review process. This undermines the structured decision-making process mandated by the university and its regulatory oversight, potentially leading to inconsistent or biased outcomes. Professionals in university admissions should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the applicable regulatory framework and university policies. This involves meticulously reviewing all submitted documentation against these established criteria. When ambiguities or unusual circumstances arise, the framework dictates seeking clarification through official channels, such as consulting with the relevant academic departments or administrative bodies responsible for policy interpretation. The decision should then be made based on a documented rationale that clearly articulates how the applicant's case aligns with or deviates from the established rules, ensuring transparency and accountability. Question 12. Risk assessment procedures indicate that a highly talented applicant for Esraa University College has achieved exceptional results in a national competition equivalent to the standard entrance examination, but lacks the specific standardized test score typically required for admission. The college's admission guidelines include a clause allowing for consideration of equivalent qualifications or exceptional circumstances at the discretion of the admissions committee. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the regulatory framework and ethical considerations for this scenario? Option A. Recommend further investigation into the applicant's potential future contributions to the college's research programs before making any decision on their admission based on academic qualifications. Option B. Reject the applicant outright due to the absence of the specific standardized test score, as this is the primary criterion outlined in the general admission requirements. Option C. Admit the applicant immediately to meet enrollment targets, assuming their national competition success indicates sufficient academic capability. Option D. Recommend admission after a thorough review of the applicant's competition results and a written justification demonstrating how these results constitute an equivalent qualification as per the college's guidelines, potentially with a recommendation for a supplementary assessment if deemed necessary by the committee. The correct answer is D. Recommend admission after a thorough review of the applicant's competition results and a written justification demonstrating how these results constitute an equivalent qualification as per the college's guidelines, potentially with a recommendation for a supplementary assessment if deemed necessary by the committee. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge for university admissions committees, balancing the desire to admit promising candidates with the need to adhere to established academic standards and fairness principles. The challenge lies in interpreting the spirit of the entrance exam regulations when faced with an exceptional but unconventional candidate. The committee must avoid both undue leniency that could compromise academic integrity and undue rigidity that might exclude a potentially valuable student. Pressure to fill quotas or meet enrollment targets can also create a conflict of interest, making objective decision-making crucial. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the candidate's application against the stated criteria of the Esraa University College entrance exam, with a specific focus on understanding the intent behind any exceptions or special considerations outlined in the college's admission guidelines. This approach prioritizes adherence to the established regulatory framework. If the guidelines permit consideration of exceptional circumstances or alternative qualifications, and the candidate's profile demonstrably meets these provisions, then a recommendation for admission, contingent on further verification if necessary, is the most appropriate action. This upholds the principle of fairness by applying the rules consistently, while also allowing for the recognition of merit that might not fit a purely standardized mold, as long as it aligns with the spirit and letter of the regulations. Incorrect approach is analysis, rejecting the candidate solely based on a lack of a specific, standardized test score, without considering the college's own provisions for alternative qualifications or exceptional circumstances, fails to adhere to the comprehensive nature of the admission regulations. This approach demonstrates a rigid interpretation that may overlook valid pathways to demonstrating academic readiness. Admitting the candidate without a clear justification based on the college's admission guidelines, simply to meet enrollment targets or due to external pressure, represents a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This undermines the integrity of the admissions process and can lead to admitting students who may not be adequately prepared for the academic rigor of the college, potentially impacting the reputation of Esraa University College. Focusing on the candidate's potential future contributions to the college without first establishing their current academic eligibility, according to the entrance exam regulations, is premature. While future potential is a consideration in holistic admissions, it cannot supersede the fundamental requirement of meeting the established entry criteria. This approach risks bypassing essential gatekeeping mechanisms designed to ensure a baseline level of academic preparedness. Professional reasoning. Professionals in university admissions should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the governing regulations and guidelines. This involves 1. Identifying the core requirements and any provisions for exceptions or alternative pathways. 2. Objectively evaluating the candidate's application against these criteria. 3. Consulting with relevant stakeholders or seeking clarification on ambiguous aspects of the regulations. 4. Documenting the decision-making process and the rationale behind the final outcome, ensuring transparency and accountability. In situations involving exceptional candidates, the focus should always be on how their profile aligns with the established framework, rather than deviating from it without proper justification. Question 13. Comparative studies suggest that applicants facing unexpected access to potentially advantageous, yet unauthorized, information during entrance examinations often grapple with ethical decision-making. Imagine you are an applicant for the Esraa University College entrance exam, and just before the exam begins, you inadvertently overhear a conversation detailing specific topics and question types that will be covered. You have not studied these specific details. What is the most ethically sound and professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Discreetly use the overheard information to guide your answers during the exam, aiming to improve your score. Option B. Disregard the overheard information and proceed with the exam, answering questions based solely on your own knowledge and preparation. Option C. Attempt to recall and utilize the overheard information only for questions you find particularly challenging. Option D. Immediately report the overheard information to the examination proctor or relevant authority before the exam commences. Correct answer is B. Disregard the overheard information and proceed with the exam, answering questions based solely on your own knowledge and preparation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to navigate the ethical considerations and regulatory expectations surrounding academic integrity during a high-stakes entrance examination. The applicant is faced with a situation where they possess information that could unfairly advantage them, and their decision on how to proceed directly impacts the fairness of the examination process and their own ethical standing. Careful judgment is required to uphold the principles of equal opportunity and honest assessment. The correct approach involves prioritizing academic integrity and fairness by refraining from using the unauthorized information. This aligns with the core ethical principles of honesty and fairness expected in academic and professional settings. Specifically, it adheres to the implicit understanding of the Esraa University College entrance exam's regulatory framework, which presumes a level playing field where all candidates are assessed based on their own knowledge and abilities, without external or unfair advantages. This approach upholds the integrity of the examination process, ensuring that the assessment accurately reflects the applicant's preparedness and potential. An incorrect approach would be to utilize the unauthorized information to answer the questions. This constitutes academic dishonesty and a violation of the examination's implicit rules of fair play. It undermines the validity of the assessment and creates an unfair advantage over other candidates who have prepared through legitimate means. Such an action would be a direct contravention of the ethical standards expected of any aspiring student and professional, and it would likely lead to disqualification and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the information and proceed with the exam without any acknowledgement or action. While this might seem passive, it fails to address the ethical dilemma presented. The applicant is aware of an unfair advantage, and inaction in this context can be interpreted as tacit acceptance or a missed opportunity to uphold integrity. A professional decision-making framework in such situations involves 1. Identifying the ethical dilemma and potential conflicts. 2. Recognizing the relevant rules and expectations, in this case, the implicit rules of academic integrity for the Esraa University College entrance exam. 3. Evaluating the potential consequences of each course of action. 4. Choosing the action that best upholds ethical principles and regulatory compliance. Question 14. Compliance review shows that an applicant for Esraa University College's entrance exam has submitted documentation indicating a significant personal hardship that may have impacted their preparation. The applicant is requesting a waiver of certain standard admission requirements based on this hardship. What is the most appropriate course of action for the admissions committee? Option A. Advise the applicant to seek assistance from external support services without addressing the admission requirement waiver. Option B. Grant the waiver immediately to accommodate the applicant's difficult circumstances. Option C. Inform the applicant that personal hardships cannot be considered and they must meet all standard requirements. Option D. Refer the applicant's case to a designated committee for review against established college policies for special considerations and verify the provided documentation. The correct answer is B. Grant the waiver immediately to accommodate the applicant's difficult circumstances. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in academic institutions where ethical conduct and adherence to established procedures are paramount. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need to support a student's academic journey with the imperative to uphold the integrity of the admission process and the college's regulations. Misjudging this situation could lead to unfair advantages for some applicants, undermine the credibility of Esraa University College, and potentially violate its entrance examination guidelines. The correct approach involves a thorough and impartial review of the applicant's situation against the established criteria of the Esraa University College entrance exam. This means verifying the authenticity of the documentation provided and assessing whether the circumstances described warrant an exception or special consideration, as per the college's stated policies. If the college has a clear policy for handling such situations, adhering to that policy is the primary regulatory and ethical obligation. This ensures fairness to all applicants and maintains the integrity of the selection process. An incorrect approach would be to grant an exception based solely on the applicant's personal circumstances without proper verification or adherence to college policy. This bypasses the established procedures and could be seen as favoritism, violating the principle of equal opportunity for all candidates. Another incorrect approach is to dismiss the applicant's request outright without considering any potential provisions for special circumstances that might exist within the college's framework. This demonstrates a lack of empathy and potentially a failure to follow the college's own guidelines for handling such matters. Finally, attempting to influence the decision-making process through informal channels or personal connections, rather than through the official review process, is a severe ethical breach that compromises the transparency and fairness of the entrance examination. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established regulations and ethical principles. This involves 1. Understanding the relevant policies and procedures of Esraa University College regarding admissions and special circumstances. 2. Gathering all necessary information and verifying the authenticity of any supporting documentation. 3. Applying the college's policies impartially to the specific case. 4. Documenting the decision-making process and the rationale behind it. 5. Seeking guidance from superiors or relevant committees if the situation is ambiguous or falls outside clear policy guidelines. Question 15. Regulatory review indicates that during the Esraa University College entrance exam, a proctor observed a candidate exhibiting unusual behavior, including frequent glances at a hidden object in their pocket. The proctor is unsure whether this constitutes a violation of the exam's integrity rules. Which of the following represents the most appropriate immediate course of action for the proctor? Strictly adhering to the Esraa University College entrance exam's regulatory framework. Option A. Approach the candidate and verbally warn them about their behavior, advising them to cease any actions that might be perceived as cheating. Option B. Discreetly observe the candidate further and, if the behavior persists or escalates, document the observations and report them to the examination supervisor for a formal review according to the established procedures outlined in the Esraa University College entrance exam regulations. Option C. Immediately confiscate the candidate's examination paper and escort them out of the examination hall to prevent further potential misconduct. Option D. Ignore the behavior, assuming it is not a serious issue, to avoid disrupting the examination environment for other candidates. The correct answer is B. Discreetly observe the candidate further, and, if the behavior persists or escalates, document the observations and report them to the examination supervisor for a formal review according to the established procedures outlined in the Esraa University College entrance exam regulations. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to navigate the ethical and regulatory landscape of university admissions, specifically concerning the integrity of the entrance examination process. The core difficulty lies in balancing the desire to admit qualified students with the absolute necessity of upholding fairness and preventing academic misconduct. A careful judgment is required to identify and address potential breaches of examination regulations without resorting to assumptions or prejudgment. The correct approach involves a systematic and evidence-based review of the examination process and any anomalies detected. This means gathering all relevant information, consulting the official Esraa University College entrance exam regulations, and applying them impartially to the situation. The justification for this approach lies in its adherence to the principles of due process and fairness, which are fundamental to any academic or professional setting. By following established procedures and relying on documented regulations, the college ensures that decisions are transparent, justifiable, and defensible, thereby maintaining the credibility of its entrance examination. An incorrect approach that involves immediate suspicion and disciplinary action based on a single observation without further investigation is ethically and regulatorily unsound. This fails to uphold the principle of innocent until proven guilty and can lead to unfair accusations and penalties. Another incorrect approach, which is to ignore potential irregularities to avoid conflict or administrative burden, directly violates the college's commitment to academic integrity and the fairness of the examination process. This inaction allows for potential misconduct to go unaddressed, undermining the entire admission system. A third incorrect approach, which is to seek external opinions without first consulting the specific Esraa University College entrance exam regulations, demonstrates a lack of diligence and a failure to adhere to the established internal framework. This can lead to misinterpretations of rules or the application of irrelevant standards. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established regulations, thorough investigation, and impartial judgment. This framework involves 1. Identifying the issue and its potential regulatory implications. 2. Consulting the specific Esraa University College entrance exam regulations to understand the relevant rules and procedures. 3. Gathering all available evidence objectively. 4. Analyzing the evidence against the established regulations. 5. Determining the appropriate course of action based on the findings and regulations, which may include further investigation, consultation with relevant authorities within the college, or implementing disciplinary measures if warranted and supported by evidence. 6. Documenting all steps taken and decisions made. Question 16. Consider a scenario where during the Esraa University College entrance exam, an applicant encounters a question that appears to contain a significant typographical error, making its intended meaning unclear. The applicant has reviewed the question multiple times and is unsure how to proceed without potentially answering incorrectly due to the error. Option A. Discuss the ambiguous question with a neighboring applicant to collectively determine the intended meaning. Option B. Make an educated guess based on the most likely intended meaning of the question. Option C. Discreetly signal the invigilator to request clarification on the ambiguous question. Option D. Skip the question entirely and focus on other questions, hoping the error will be overlooked. The correct answer is C. Discreetly signal the invigilator to request clarification on the ambiguous question. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the core principles of academic integrity and ethical conduct expected of students at Esraa University College. The challenge lies in identifying the most appropriate and ethical response when faced with a situation that could be perceived as a shortcut or a deviation from standard academic practice. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between acceptable forms of seeking clarification and actions that could be construed as academic misconduct. The correct approach involves proactively seeking clarification from the official examination body regarding any ambiguities or potential errors in the exam paper. This demonstrates a commitment to academic honesty, a respect for the examination process, and a proactive problem-solving attitude. Specifically, adhering to the Esraa University College's stated guidelines on examination conduct, which would typically emphasize the importance of integrity and the proper channels for addressing exam-related issues, is paramount. This approach ensures that any concerns are addressed through official, transparent, and fair means, upholding the integrity of the entrance examination. An incorrect approach of attempting to guess the intended meaning of a potentially flawed question without seeking clarification is professionally unacceptable. This bypasses the established procedures for exam integrity and could lead to an inaccurate assessment of the applicant's knowledge. It also risks misinterpreting the question, potentially leading to an answer that is factually incorrect or does not align with the examiner's intent, thereby undermining the fairness of the examination. Another incorrect approach of discussing the ambiguous question with other applicants during the exam is also professionally unacceptable. This constitutes a breach of examination rules, as it can be interpreted as an attempt to collaborate or gain an unfair advantage. Such actions directly violate the principles of individual assessment and academic honesty, which are foundational to any educational institution, including Esraa University College. The professional reasoning process for applicants in such situations should involve a clear decision-making framework. 1. Identify the ambiguity or potential issue in the exam question. 2. Consult the official examination instructions and guidelines provided by Esraa University College for procedures on handling such matters. 3. If the guidelines permit, discreetly and respectfully seek clarification from the invigilator or designated examination official. 4. If direct clarification is not immediately possible or permitted, make a reasoned attempt to answer based on the most probable interpretation, while being aware of the potential for misinterpretation. 5. Avoid any form of collaboration or discussion with other candidates during the examination period. Question 17. The performance metrics show a significant improvement in the average score of applicants for the Esraa University College entrance exam compared to the previous year, with a notable increase in the number of applicants achieving scores above the historical benchmark for acceptance. However, a subset of applicants still falls below the minimum passing threshold, and there is a slight decline in the performance of a specific demographic group within the applicant pool. Considering these varied indicators, which approach best reflects responsible and ethical reporting of these entrance exam performance metrics? Option A. Highlight the overall improvement and the increased number of high-scoring applicants to showcase the college's growing appeal and the success of its admissions process. Option B. Withhold the data related to the declining demographic group and the lower-scoring applicants to avoid negative perceptions of the entrance exam's effectiveness. Option C. Focus on the decline in performance of the specific demographic group and the applicants below the minimum threshold to immediately trigger intervention strategies. Option D. Present a balanced overview of the performance metrics, acknowledging the overall improvement and the success of many applicants, while also transparently noting the areas of concern and the specific demographic performance trends, suggesting further analysis rather than definitive conclusions. Correct answer is A. Highlight the overall improvement and the increased number of high-scoring applicants to showcase the college's growing appeal and the success of its admissions process. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need for accurate reporting with the potential for misinterpretation of data that could lead to undue pressure on students or misrepresentation of the college's performance. The Esraa University College entrance exam context implies a focus on academic integrity and fair assessment practices. Careful judgment is required to ensure that performance metrics are presented in a way that is both informative and ethically sound, avoiding any actions that could compromise the integrity of the entrance process or the reputation of the college. The correct approach involves a nuanced presentation of performance metrics, acknowledging both strengths and areas for improvement without sensationalizing or oversimplifying the data. This aligns with the ethical obligation to provide accurate and transparent information. Specifically, it adheres to the principles of responsible data interpretation and communication, which are implicitly expected in an academic setting. By contextualizing the metrics and avoiding definitive pronouncements based on a single data point, this approach upholds academic integrity and promotes a balanced understanding of student performance. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the highest performing metrics without acknowledging other data points would be ethically flawed. This selective reporting can create a misleading impression of overall performance and potentially lead to unfair comparisons or undue pressure on students. It fails to meet the standard of comprehensive and honest representation of data. Another incorrect approach that emphasizes the lowest performing metrics to highlight areas needing immediate intervention without proper context or a plan for improvement is also professionally unsound. While identifying areas for improvement is important, presenting such data without a constructive framework can be demotivating and misrepresent the overall student body's capabilities. It lacks the balanced perspective required for ethical data communication. A third incorrect approach that suggests withholding certain performance metrics due to their potentially negative implications is a direct violation of transparency and academic integrity. This action undermines trust and can lead to accusations of data manipulation or a lack of accountability. Professionals in this context should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes accuracy, transparency, and ethical communication. This involves 1. Understanding the audience and purpose of the communication. 2. Analyzing all relevant data points comprehensively, not just those that are most favorable or unfavorable. 3. Contextualizing the data with appropriate explanations and caveats. 4. Considering the potential impact of the data presentation on students, faculty, and the institution's reputation. 5. Consulting relevant college policies and ethical guidelines for data reporting. Question 18. The investigation demonstrates that an applicant to Esraa University College has submitted academic transcripts that appear to be inconsistent with the stated minimum entry requirements for their chosen program. The applicant, however, has provided a compelling personal statement highlighting significant extracurricular achievements and a strong desire to excel. The admissions committee is faced with deciding whether to proceed with the application. Option A. Proceed with admission based on the strength of the personal statement and extracurricular achievements, assuming the transcript issues are minor and can be resolved later. Option B. Offer conditional admission contingent upon the applicant providing satisfactory evidence to explain the transcript discrepancies within a specified time frame. Option C. Immediately reject the application due to the apparent inconsistency in the academic transcripts. As these are the primary basis for admission, Option D. Request further documentation and clarification from the applicant regarding the transcript discrepancies, while simultaneously evaluating the personal statement and extracurricular achievements against any supplementary admission criteria. The correct answer is D. Request further documentation and clarification from the applicant regarding the transcript discrepancies, while simultaneously evaluating the personal statement and extracurricular achievements against any supplementary admission criteria. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the integrity of the admission process. The admissions committee must uphold the college's standards while fairly evaluating all applicants. The decision requires careful judgment to ensure fairness, transparency, and adherence to Esraa University College's established admission guidelines. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the applicant's submitted documentation against the stated admission criteria, seeking clarification from the applicant if discrepancies arise, and documenting the entire decision-making process. This aligns with the principles of fairness and due diligence expected in academic admissions. Specifically, Esraa University College's admission regulations mandate a comprehensive assessment of all submitted credentials and a transparent process for addressing any ambiguities. This approach ensures that decisions are based on objective evidence and established criteria, thereby maintaining the credibility of the college's admissions. An incorrect approach would be to immediately grant admission based on the applicant's perceived potential or a vague promise of future contributions, without verifying the submitted qualifications. This fails to adhere to the explicit requirements of the Esraa University College admission framework, which prioritizes verifiable academic achievements. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the application outright due to a minor, potentially explainable discrepancy without attempting to seek clarification. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and an unwillingness to engage in a fair evaluation process, contravening the spirit of equitable opportunity inherent in academic admissions. A third incorrect approach would be to allow external influence, such as a recommendation from a prominent figure, to override the established admission criteria without independent verification. This compromises the integrity of the process and violates the principle of merit-based selection. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making framework that begins with understanding the specific regulatory requirements of Esraa University College. This involves identifying the core admission criteria and the procedures for handling applicant information. Next, they should gather all relevant facts and evidence pertaining to the applicant's case. Then, they must evaluate the facts against the established criteria, identifying any gaps or inconsistencies. If discrepancies exist, the framework dictates seeking clarification from the applicant or relevant parties. Finally, a documented decision should be made, clearly articulating the rationale based on the evidence and the college's regulations. Question 19. The analysis reveals that a prospective student for Esraa University College has submitted academic transcripts that appear to have been altered to improve his previous grades. What is the most appropriate initial course of action for the admissions committee, adhering strictly to the regulatory framework governing university admissions in Iraq? Option A. Conduct a thorough verification of the submitted academic documents and consult the college's internal policies on academic integrity and admissions, as well as relevant Iraqi Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research guidelines. Option B. Immediately reject the application and inform the student of the suspected academic dishonesty. Option C. Accept the application provisionally while requesting original documents from the student's previous institution. Option D. Forward the suspected fraudulent documents to the Iraqi Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research for immediate investigation without internal review. Correct answer is B. Immediately reject the application and inform the student of the suspected academic dishonesty. Explanation. The analysis reveals a scenario where a prospective student, Mr. Ahmed, is seeking admission to Esraa University College. He has presented a set of academic documents that appear to be altered to inflate his previous grades. The challenge lies in balancing the college's commitment to admitting qualified students with the ethical imperative to uphold academic integrity and prevent fraudulent admissions. The college must act decisively to protect its reputation and the fairness of its admissions process. The correct approach involves a thorough investigation of the presented documents and a decision based on established college policies and relevant Iraqi educational regulations concerning academic fraud. This approach prioritizes adherence to the law and the college's internal rules, ensuring that any admission decision is both legally sound and ethically defensible. Specifically, it aligns with the principles of due process and the prohibition of deceptive practices in academic settings, as likely stipulated by the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research in Iraq. An incorrect approach would be to accept the documents at face value without verification. This failure to investigate would violate the college's responsibility to ensure the authenticity of applicant credentials and could lead to the admission of an unqualified student, undermining the academic standards of Esraa University College. It also risks setting a precedent for fraudulent behavior. Another incorrect approach would be to immediately reject Mr. Ahmed without providing him an opportunity to explain or present original documentation. While fraud is serious, a fair process requires an investigation and a chance for the applicant to respond to allegations. This would be a procedural failure and potentially an ethical lapse in due process. A third incorrect approach would be to report Mr. Ahmed to external authorities without first completing an internal investigation and following college disciplinary procedures. While external reporting might be a consequence, it should follow a clear internal process and determination of wrongdoing, respecting the college's own governance and the applicant's rights within that framework. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying the core issue, potential academic fraud, gathering all relevant information, document verification, college policies, Iraqi educational laws, evaluating the evidence against established criteria, considering all possible courses of action, and finally, making a decision that is consistent with legal and ethical obligations, documenting the process thoroughly. Question 20. The control framework reveals an incomplete application from a prospective student for the Esraa University College entrance exam, specifically missing required supporting documents. What is the most appropriate immediate action for the admissions committee to take? Option A. Reject the application immediately due to the incomplete submission. Option B. Inform the applicant of the missing documents and provide a reasonable deadline for their submission. Option C. Accept the application provisionally, assuming the missing documents will be provided later. Option D. Contact the applicant to request the missing documents without setting a specific deadline. The correct answer is B. Inform the applicant of the missing documents and provide a reasonable deadline for their submission. Explanation. The control framework reveals a situation where a student applicant, Mr. Ahmed, has provided incomplete documentation for his Esraa University College entrance exam application. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need for thoroughness in admissions processes with fairness to the applicant and adherence to university regulations. The university must ensure that all applicants meet the established criteria, but also provide a reasonable opportunity for them to rectify any omissions. The correct approach involves proactively contacting Mr. Ahmed to inform him of the missing documents and providing a clear deadline for submission. This approach is ethically sound and aligns with the principles of fairness and due process. It respects the applicant's right to be informed and to complete their application properly. From a regulatory perspective, this method ensures compliance with any university guidelines that mandate a fair and transparent admissions procedure, preventing arbitrary rejection. It also upholds the integrity of the admissions process by ensuring that only complete applications are considered, thereby maintaining the academic standards of Esraa University College. An incorrect approach would be to immediately reject Mr. Ahmed's application without any prior notification. This fails to uphold the principle of fairness and could be seen as a procedural irregularity if university guidelines stipulate a process for incomplete applications. It also risks overlooking a potentially qualified candidate due to a simple oversight, which is detrimental to the university's goal of attracting diverse talent. Another incorrect approach would be to accept the application despite the missing documents, assuming they will be provided later. This undermines the established admission criteria and could lead to inconsistencies in the admissions process, potentially violating university regulations regarding application completeness and creating an unfair advantage for Mr. Ahmed over other applicants who submitted complete documentation on time. Professionals in university admissions should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes clear communication, adherence to established procedures, and fairness. This involves first understanding the specific university regulations regarding application completeness and the process for handling incomplete applications, then assessing the impact of the missing information on the evaluation of the applicant. Finally, choosing the course of action that best balances regulatory compliance with ethical considerations, such as providing the applicant with an opportunity to rectify the situation before making a final decision.